Imagine a moment where you're using an app or product, a different kind of service, and it works so fluidly that it's just second nature. The experience is smooth, you barely notice the interface at all, it becomes an extension of your mind and your body, so you can focus on completing your tasks and doing what you want to achieve instead of the steps how you're getting there. That sounds amazing, doesn't it? And yet sometimes we use applications that makes us feel like, you know? Who here in the audience uses an application that they secretly hate using? I bet. I bet more than a few. Exactly. Me as well. But why is that? What are they doing wrong? What could it be done differently? That's what I want to talk about tonight. I'm Max. I'm a Nielsen Norman Master Certified UX designer with a specialty recognition in interaction design, UX research, and UX management. And today, I want to show you how we as designers connect humans and systems together. So, how do we connect humans and systems together? Well, if there will be a simple answer, we will be here for like a half an hour, so I'm going to break it down in a few parts. The first part that's really important is know who your users are. And that shouldn't be any differently from like our social life. I have a much better connection with somebody who I know instead of like with some complete stranger. But why is that in design and in development important? Well, to answer that and to address that, I want to do a quick challenge with you guys. We are going to organize a birthday party. And yeah, I'm a bit of a creative type, so I can come up with a few ideas what I want to share with you guys. So please come up with some great ideas for a birthday party. Raise your hand if you have a good idea for a birthday party. What do you want to do? Sorry?
Is it for toddlers or seniors?
Just come up with ideas. Let's be creative. Let's not limit it. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Balloons.
Balloons. Okay.
Koekhappen. Cards Against Humanity.
Card Against Humanity. That's a really cool one, actually. Let's go to that. Okay. Yeah?
Leven worst op kamertemperatuur.
I don't know what kind of birthday parties you're into, mate, but all right. Okay.
Coffee and tea.
Coffee and tea.
Yeah, singing a birthday song.
Singing a birthday song. Okay. And maybe some like outside activities. Airsoft. Okay, cool. Anything better than airsoft?
Going to the pool.
Going to the pool, okay. So we have airsoft and going to the pool. Okay, let's keep those two things in mind. And, well, maybe we can, well, not literally combine them both, but do both these things. But, all right, so we have a general idea. Let's take airsoft for this example. We are going to organize a birthday party where we're going airsofting. What I didn't tell you is who we are organizing it for. We are organizing
I spoiled it, or sorry.
for this little girl. Should we still go airsofting?
Yeah.
Yes? All right. I think you're going to have to talk with their parents, but maybe we should eventually find something else. But if we dig a little bit deeper and get to know this girl, well, her name is Katie. Hey. Give a minute. What? Her name is Katie, she's 9 years old. She loves swimming, so go to the pool was actually a great idea. She hates going to the zoo, and she also has 3 best friends that she would like to invite to the party as well. The key part here, the key takeaway, is that because now we know who we are organizing it for, we can much narrowing it down, all the different options, and to choose the type of birthday party that fits her and what she wants and what she would like, instead of just go airsofting. So, if you have more information about who you are making something for, you have much more information about what you can be making, how you can be making it, and most importantly, why you are making it. And these type of characteristics come down in a process that's called design thinking. Who here has heard of design thinking before? Quite a few. Very good. For those who don't know, design thinking is a user-centered, iterative problem-solving approach that focuses on empathy, creativity, and testing. The user-centered part is the most important here, and we'll get to that if we dive a little bit deeper. It basically consists of 5 different phases. The first one is the empathizing phase. That's the phase where we are going to research the user's needs. We're going to meet our users. We're going to ask that question that I asked in the beginning. Who they are, what do they want? The key takeaway for here is we want to get assumptions inside. We want to fill in the blanks with based research, not with our own assumptions, because our assumptions are always going to be very wrong. So we want to know what they think, how they feel, what they do, what they say, stuff like that. And in the next phase, we're going to dive deeper, because here we are going to see what the problems are. What do they face? What do they do? We observe the user from their perspective and see what they're facing, because eventually we would like to solve their problems. We really need to get to the core of what they want to achieve and what stops them from getting there. If you have that down very clearly, then the fun part begins. Because now we're going to ideate, meaning we're going to brainstorm all new ideas for potential solutions. Really, the sky is the limit. Think out of the box, have really the most crazy ideas that maybe could never work because that sparks the interest. And simply, it's just plain fun. But also, it has to be realistic. So eventually, you're going to make prototypes of those ideas. Well, one, so you can test them with the users and see how it actually feels, how the interactivity works. But also, eventually, because you want to turn it into a real product. So you can weigh the feasibility of it. How feasible is it to eventually develop? But also what the impact is for the end user. And that comes down to the last phase, which is testing. What you want to do is you try those solutions out by getting feedback from the end user. Of course, feedback from each other can be valuable, but always include the ones you are making it for, because they are eventually going to use or buy your product. And you're going to measure if your desired outcome actually works or not. And because it's an iterative process, when you have the results finding, you're just going back and do it all over again. So with all the findings that you have, you're going to come up with the new ideas, further define it, narrowing it down, go into prototyping, then testing again and over and over and over again. Well, eventually your organization will like say, hey, cool, that all the data ready, but eventually want a product shipped, so what should the end goal be? The end goal has to contain like 3 criteria, 3 base pillars for design thinking. The first one is it has to be desirable. Well, that should be clear by now. If we develop a product that's not desirable, it has no reason for being there. The second one, it has to be technologically feasible to develop. Otherwise, you will just put all your money and resources in something that will never get off the ground, and your ideas will remain ideas. And the last one for the business, it has to be viable, because it doesn't really help if your company goes down under 2 months after developing it. So your goal, your end product, you want it to be here. And this isn't really different from like basic business 101, but this is the key difference. Our starting point is always from the desirability perspective, always from the user. What do they want? Because they are eventually going to use our product or buy our product. And to help us as designers keep this our focus point, not only at the starting of the design thinking process, but also during developing, are a few tricks. One of them is personas. Personas are fictional yet realistic representations of our users. I have an example right here. What they do is they define key basic characteristics and behavior types of this particular user. However, the user's name and profile picture here is fictional. The data is always based on research. Otherwise, we'll be just filling in everything with assumptions and we get back to square one. And all these type of things can help you in design and in development. When you're making a big design or development decision, grab your persona, put them next to each other and say, okay, what would Rosie think? What would she want? Does my solution fit her problem? And then you can take it one step further, and that's with the customer journey. That's basically putting the essence of a persona, but in a timeline, because experiences are always in a linear time, not just one simple snapshot in time, where they map thoughts, behaviors, and feelings of a user in a particular moment during your experience. It always consists of multiple stages, like when you have a web shop or e-commerce website, you always have the first part where somebody comes on your website, like say through a search engine or something, and finally exit, or when you have the checkout process and the email confirmation of their order or their order shipping status. Of the kings and queens of customer journeys are IKEA. This is an example customer journey that they made in around 2008. And what you can see is you have the x-axis here, which is basically every single moment from the starting, like entering the car parking lot, from exiting through the checkout. And then on the y-axis, how a certain customer experiences that particular moment. So like, he is quite neutral about the car park, he's really excited about the product trial, and then the self-service, he finds it pretty bad. And with this, you can really get quite cool insights on what parts of your experience you can focus on to improve. So that's a general idea of how you know who your users are and how they can inform us to make better design decisions. But an equally important part is how our users work, because most of the times our users are humans. We humans have brains. Brains are really complex systems. They can process a lot of data every second. They're really good at that. But they do take shortcuts. Because if we notice every little detail around us, our brains will simply get overstimulated and we get exhausted. Notice every tiny little detail around us. So our brain filters out most of these stimulations. That's called habituation. We're getting in the habit of all the things in our daily lives around us. For myself, I grew up in a small town called Nieuw-Vennep. That's somewhat close to Amsterdam, to put it in perspective. Do you know what also lies really somewhat close to Amsterdam? Maybe some of you guys will recognize it. That's Schiphol Airport. And if there are a couple of things to know about Schiphol Airport is that one, the massage seats are actually quite nice in the lobby. But two, there tend to fly a lot of planes there. And, well, of course, that's the purpose. But they also land and take off very often. And they don't do that in just a matter of a few seconds. They do it very gradually, like flying really below over those towns, creating a lot of noise. And the fun part is, the longer you are close in that neighborhood, the less you are accustomed to those noise sounds. They eventually start to fade away. You don't hear them as much. Of course, they're still there, but you don't notice them as much. Because those are those types of stimulation that your brain automatically filters out. You become inhabited to them. I moved myself to a different city at the age of 7, and recently I visited some friends who still live there, and I instantly noticed that noise again. So it's really cool to see how our brains work in different types of situations. And another way that habituation works in our everyday lives are through mental models. To explain mental models, I have a cool example. Everybody who has a driver's license had that moment of their first driving lesson. Nervous, everything is new, so many things around us, a lot of stimulations. But also you were taught a lot of things that basically stayed the same after even 10, 15, 20 plus years of driving experience. In this case, if somebody like do something stupid right in front of your eyes. Everybody has experienced it, and you want to alert the drivers. What do? You take your hand and you put it on the center of the steering wheel to honk the horn. Really basic, right? That's one of the first things that they teach you. And even after all those years of experience, you know that if there's something happening, it's just muscle memory and doing that action. It becomes second nature. It's instinct. Well, let's say you recently bought a new Tesla Model S from like 2021 with this awesome new yoke steering wheel, and somebody's about to cut you off, damaging your brand new car, and you want to alert the driver. So you take up your hand, slam it on the center of the yoke, and nothing happens. Because they moved the horn button to the right side of the steering wheel. And the first reaction that you have is, huh? What? It creates total confusion. Because of all those years of experience, you expected it to work that way, and then it suddenly doesn't. So a mental model is an internal representation of how a person understands and interacts with the world around us. And we as designers want to use those mental models to our advantage. Many of you recognize this icon and what it does. When you press it, it automatically saves the document or the project that you're working on. Have you ever taken a second glance at that icon and how it hasn't changed in the last 30 years? Because they remind us of those floppy disks that we used to save our data 30 years ago. And yet somehow we still use that old icon, even though our saving message dramatically has changed in the last few years. We still got accustomed to this icon because this icon told us, hey, you press this, your data is safe. You can safely close down your computer, put it somewhere else, take the power cord out, doesn't matter, it's safe. So we got used to this icon and got familiar with it, but eventually some companies decide to change it, but you see that floppy disk icon still quite often in most applications. That's because the designers played into that mental model that we had for so many years. Another one is web shops. Have you ever noticed that like 99.9% of all web shops have that cart basket on the right side of the top bar? When the first web shops came out, eventually this became the standard. And there's actually a law in UX that's called Jacob's Law, meaning users spend most of their time on other products other than yours. Well, yeah, Captain Obvious. But what he's trying to say is that users build up experience on all those other products before coming to yours. Meaning that if you have a web shop and the cart button is on the left side, and one random individual eventually comes to your web shop and tries to shop around, he or she will be immediately thrown off with, wait, I was expecting it to be on top right. Where is it? And they're going to have to search or look around, and it puts strain. Well, why just put it on top right? Everybody expects it to behave that way. So the mental strain is much lower. It feels more natural. It feels more intuitive by sticking to those design conventions. And then on top of that, there are some psychology tricks that we use. One of them is the peak end rule, meaning that most people tend to judge an experience based on how they felt at a peak moment, whether if that's a good moment or a bad moment, and the end. And if I want to go back to the IKEA example I came on previously, this is where you can see that very clearly. On the top, the product trial is a really cool peak moment. And then the self-service is also a peak moment, but in a very bad way. And then here it mostly stays around neutral, it's less bad, except for that canteen, halfway down your trip, where you can grab a little snack, maybe sit down, take everything in. And also that end rule. And if you have been to IKEA, there's one thing you can always expect at the end, and that's a delicious hot dog or the ice cream. So they really played into this. And the next time you're visiting IKEA, you're probably thinking, yeah, I want to buy that hot dog again. Maybe even after seeing this image. Juicy. Another one is Miller's Law, meaning that the average person can keep around 5 to 7 items in their short-term memory. And a really cool practical way that they played into this is with the two-factor authentication codes. Most of them are 6 digits. And before, like Apple had that amazing from messages shortcut or something else. What you mostly wanted to do is when you got an SMS, you're going to the SMS app and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, in the meantime, you were switching to the app that we're using to keep those in memory. But all those tricks that we do is we eventually want to help the user. Through the years, some websites and agencies have also used these tricks to deceive us in their way, in their favor. So I want to also let you know how we are actually getting manipulated on those online products. This one is also a very popular one, it's the cookie box. I believe everyone encounters this many times a day. This big box with text you're never about to gonna read, and this big bright green accept button just waiting for you to press it and then it's all over. But have you ever noticed that there is no reject button equally as big, equally as prominent next to it? Most of them just have a little preferences, and when you press on it, you have this larger settings page with all those different options, with switches or checkboxes already pre-turned on for you. So if you don't want to, let this website track you, you have to individually tick them all to off, and then eventually save. Some web shops or some websites are actually quite nice and they put a little button uncheck all for you, so it saves a little bit of time. But they make it deliberately harder for you to just simple opt out. Because the path of the least resistance is just accept all and I'm done with it. I believe many of you just simply blindly on most sites press accept, so it's done and I can continue on with my day. Another one is the tactile placement in mobile environments, where they play into. In this example, you have your phone sitting in, well, in this case, the right hand, and there are certain areas of the screen that you can reach quite comfortably, like in the green zone, just with your thumb. Maybe the yellow zone, you can reach it by stretching your thumb a little bit, or if you have bigger hands. The orange and the red one are quite hard to reach, other if you just place your phone entirely differently in your hand. And where do you think that advertisers with those full screen video ads that interrupt you every minute place the skip button? Exactly. All the way on the top right corner where it is the hardest to reach. Another one of those dark patterns that is often quite used is playing with the fear of missing out. This is an example for Booking.com, where they have a big bright text saying, there's only one room left on this site, so you act ahead quickly. It puts pressure on the user to make a forced, quick decision, even if they don't want it to. And even if that's not enough, they also have a text saying like, this accommodation was booked 46 times in the last 24 hours, to put even more pressure on the user into just going for it. We're really sensitive to that. Another one is confirm shaming. And that basically says that they're using a specific form of language, like guilt-inducing or shaming language, to manipulate a user's behavior or thinking process in specific elements. Like here, sign up to get 70% off of your first order if you leave your email address, and then we'll spam you like 5 times a day. But instead of saying, no, thanks, and just dismiss it, they're saying, no, I prefer to pay the full price. To make it sound like this option is socially undesirable. And like everyone is saying, no, just do this. It does something with your mind. And this is stark contrast with what we as designers want. We as these UX designers, we want to help the user. We want to help this little girl with organizing the birthday party that she desires. We help drivers by keeping that stupid horn at the center of the steering wheel instead of putting it somewhere else. And we help IKEA visitors by getting that delicious hot dog at the end. That's what we do. So I want to thank you all for taking the journey with me, and if you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know. Thanks.